This is a Mitsubishi Evo 8. It's a performance bargain and a rally legend. Why wouldn't you want one? Today, we're going to cover all the points that you need to check if you're planning on buying a second-hand one. So the first thing to mention, guys, is this is an enthusiast car, and as such, it's gonna have been driven enthusiastically. So we want to make sure that it's not seen the wrong side of a hedge more than once. Thankfully, there's a few things that we can check. So first up, we want to check all the door shuts. We're looking here, guys, to make sure that all the panels align. And at the same time, we can also start to have a look at things like the sill to make sure there's not any paint overspray or any bad masking that's taking place. Check the boot. Doors and bonnet all closed correctly. Given the nature of the car, something you're going to want to do is check the underside. And what we're looking for here is any bad gouges, any dents, anything like that that suggests the car's maybe been used in a rallycross stage. While you're under there as well, give the shocks a quick once over. So guys, we come to under the bonnet and really we're looking to just check the normal stuff here. So check the oil level, check the oil condition. We can take the cap off, make sure there's no egg mayo under there. And really just have a general look around for any leaks coming out of the engine. Here's one other check you can also do, guys. If there's been any water ingress in this area here, it can sometimes manifest itself as rust around these top mounts. So give them both a good check, make sure they're all good. Before we get moving on into the interior here, guys, and onto the test drive, if you're enjoying this buyer's guide and you want to see more performance buyer guides and reviews of cars just like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever we make a new upload. I missed the bell icon, shit. So make sure you click the bell notification so that you're notified whenever we make a new upload. Let's get on to the inside. Alright guys, so now that we're on the inside, first things first, we want to just have a good look at the general condition of it. Consider the mileage that the car's covered and look at the steering wheel, look at the pedals, look at the seats. In particular, consider the seat bolsters. And what we're doing is we're making sure that this all tallies to the mileage that the car has. Now, following on from what we'd spoken about earlier as well, in terms of the panels lining up and the alignment being correct, have a look at the interior trim and make sure that all aligns as well, guys. It's maybe one thing that can get the panels right on the outside, but you might just spot it on the inside as being not quite right. Next up, guys, consider all the things that the MOT doesn't cover. So how about the electric windows? How about the aircon? How about the sound system that's fitted in the car? Check all this stuff so you don't discover it on the drive home. Now again, this next one, guys, nothing specific to Evos here. This can be on any car. If the drains get blocked, if there's a small hole in the wheel well, anything like that, what we can end up with is a dampness in the carpets and potentially a little bit of rust forming under it as well, which is bad news. So get in here. Obviously, if the mats are a bit damp, if it's damp weather like we have here in Scotland every day, that's obviously going to make it damp. However, try and get under these mats, try and get a good feel around, and basically just make sure that there's no untoward dampness in there. Approaching the time that you've probably been waiting for, getting the car out and on a test drive. But hang on a minute there. If you're interested in buying one of these cars, this prime example is actually for sale right now. And the best way to contact the seller is on Instagram. His Instagram name is below and it's at Harry Singh BTW. Now here's a top tip that can apply to pretty much any car, guys. Ask the seller to have the car stone cold for you arriving, preferably having been left overnight. Alright, next guys, it's not quite time to start the engine up yet. Let's just turn the ignition on for now. And what we're looking for is to make sure that the AYC lights all illuminate and haven't been disabled by a bit of a dodgy seller. AYC, by the way, stands for the active yaw control. Now guys, here's another tip. With that ignition on, don't start the car. Ask the seller to do you a little favour and start the car for you. Meanwhile, you can stand at the back and watch for any excess smoke coming out. We've asked the seller to start it up for us, and as I said, check for any excess smoke coming out. If we're getting any blue smoke, it could well be the case that the turbo seals are on their way out. Now that you've checked that there's no excess smoke coming out, we need to double back and go make sure that 2 of those AYC lights have turned out correctly. So coming back around here, guys, what we want to make sure is that only 1 of the AYC lights is on, which would suggest that the car is in that specific setting. If there's only 1 on, the other 2 are no longer illuminated, then good. Everything appears to be working normally. We'll test it a bit further on the test drive. Now, final thing you can do with the AYC here, guys, is go ahead and use the button to cycle through it. Make sure each stage of it activates correctly. Now, before we get out on that test drive, one last thing to check. Go ahead and have the seller give the car a quick rev while you have a look at the back for any smoke whilst the engine's under load. If it all is clear, looks good. Let's get on with the test drive. Alright guys, so we're out on the road. First thing, we want to make sure that it pulls cleanly through all the gears. And on that note, this goes for any car by the way, we want to make sure that the clutch is okay and in good order. Now if the clutch goes, it is quite a labour intensive job, and if it's coming out of your pocket, then obviously that's not great. A sneaky seller's got away with that one. So what we want to do is we want to get to an incline. We want to get to a hill on the test drive, get it into a higher gear, maybe 5th gear, 3000 RPM, and floor the throttle. If the clutch is worn or slipping, you're gonna notice it then. Now, if the revs rise disproportionately from the speed of the car, then that suggests it is indeed worn and needing replaced. All right, next up guys, on the note of the gearbox, as you're driving, get into a variety of different gears. And what we want to do is go on and off that throttle. Now, if the car jumps out of gear into neutral, could be a dodgy synchro mesh on that specific gear, and again that can be quite labour intensive, so make sure that's not happening. The other thing that can happen on Evos is 5th gear can start to whine. Typically it seems to be 5th gear that whines over all others. So get the car into 5th and maintain speed for a little while. Make sure that it's not any louder than any of the other gears. Now on the note of the brakes here guys, they tend to be pretty reliable. However, it's always prudent to give them a good check. So from at least 60 miles per hour, brake slowly but firmly. Watch for any pulling or any vibration coming through the steering wheel that would suggest, again, you're going to need to dig into your pockets to fix something a dodgy seller is trying to get away with. All right, guys, so getting on to the final checks here now. So what we want to do is find a big empty parking lot or car park and do some figure of 8s and some tight manoeuvring. What we're doing there is we're putting strain onto both the front and the rear differential. And what you're looking for is any strange noises coming from the front or rear. So any clicking, any groaning, any clunking, anything at all, you want to be really cautious about there, guys, because these cars tend to be pretty quiet when they're in good shape. Certainly this one, which I hasten to add is for sale, is very good and quiet and runs well. If the seller is willing, get him to do a couple figure 8s or tight turns whilst you stand outside and listen in for any strange noises coming from it. And the final thing on that test drive, guys, is try and get yourself onto some bumpy road. Shouldn't be hard in the UK. However, what we're doing there is we're listening out for any knocks or strange noises coming from any of the suspension components. If you can't find yourself a bad condition bumpy road, speed bumps are the next best thing. Go over a couple of speed bumps, you don't need to go particularly fast, but certainly any drop links, any worn top mounts, anything like that, you're going to hear it quite quickly. And again, not the end of the world, but good negotiation points, and we want to try and get you guys some money off. Now, the final thing I want to add here, guys, and this is really important, and that is enjoy the process. Getting a new car is exciting, but I understand it can be a bit worrying buying a used performance car. That's why, if you've got any problems on a car you're looking at, or you own one of these and have a problem and aren't too sure, go ahead and drop a comment below and we'll try and help you out with that. We're here to help. But for now, guys, good luck with finding your perfect Evo 8. That is an Evo 8, isn't it?